Hi, welcome to Box on the Box, Rock and Celluloid, Bot for short, I'm over Box. So I'm going to give you a review of the first Omen. So I wasn't sure if I was going to go and see this, but a friend recommended it. He thought it was really good. I've had some time off this week and there was a showing on at my local View cinema and I thought, you know what, for £6 I'm going to go down and check it out. Quite enjoyed the trailer, just wasn't sure. And I'm quite pleasantly surprised by this, I think, as a lot of people are who've seen it. There is some mixed reviews and there's some people who don't like it, and it does mess a little bit with kind of Omen mythology. But I think what's positive about this film is, first of all, it's really well directed. It's got a strong visual style. It's directed by a young lady called Arkasha Stevenson. I think this is her second film. She's got a really good eye. Cinematographer is a guy called Aaron Morton. I haven't heard of him before, but together they've come up with some really strong visuals, good use of slow-mo, strong colour palette. It's kind of got a slightly kind of beige tint to it because it's set in 1971. So in a way, it's kind of mirroring a little bit of the look of those, early 70s Italian giallo films, Bird with the Crystal Plumage, Cat o' Nine Tails, things like that. That's my take on it. Also, the score by a guy called Mark Coven, he's done quite a few scores, is really good. He basically uses a lot of key themes from Jerry Goldsmith's classic Oscar-winning score from the 1976 film and works it in with his own things. And no spoiler alert on this, but it opens with quite a kind of happy theme in the, sort of one of the first scenes, and that kind of recalls those early Morricone scores for those giallo films, where he might have a sort of, a kind of slightly jolly theme. I like that. I think it was only when watching the film I kind of realised those big death concepts, those grand guignol, was that how we pronounce it, deaths that you have in the Omen films, really do owe themselves to the giallo films of the early 70s. Basically plot is a young girl who's an orphan, who's grown up in an orphanage, goes to Rome to complete her kind of training to be a nun, and she's going to take the veil, so to speak. She's played by Nell Tiger-Free. Sorry, I keep looking across, I'm just trying to remember the names. She's really good. She's an English actress. She's excellent in this role. She has to run the emotional gamut. I think she does well. Ralph Ineson is cast as Father Brennan, the Patrick Troughton character. Some people have been critical of his casting because he's Finch in The Office. I quite like him. A little bit of horror lineage there, of course, because Ralph Ineson's in one of the great modern horror films, The Witch. Bill Nighy's casting, less successful. I don't mind him. He gets better as the film goes along, but I don't know. I mean, Bill Nighy's a great actor. I'm just not sure they could have not cast someone a little more imposing in the kind of gothic sense. Sonia Braga's good, and supporting cast good. Like I said, the visual look of this film is really good. The Simpsons sound and image. It mirrors some references from the original Omen films, and then also has some new spins. It makes good use of practical effects. And my friend pointed that out. And there's quite a bit of body horror in this, which is quite interesting. And some of the imagery and use of kind of the sequences where you'll have like just visuals and score and sound. And that kind of recalls the kind of Exorcist, particularly the kind of prologue in Iraq sequence from that film. So that's my take. I would give this, I'm kind of veering, but I'm going to give it a 7. I think it might be better than that. It's certainly not much worse than that. It's got a lot of strong points. It doesn't do a disservice to the Omen films. If you watch this first and then link it up with the other three, forgetting the fourth one and the remake. Interestingly enough, after watching this, I watched the Omen last night, the original, and I've kind of flicked through the remake this morning. Don't know why, I was just interested. But anyway, so what I'm going to do now is, I'll just say spoiler alert, so we're now 4 minutes in, so from now on I will discuss aspects of the film that would spoil it for you if you haven't seen it. So switch off now. If you've seen the film, well, you see what I'm thinking of my opinions. Okay, so I thought the death scenes were well handled, but they were a tribute act. So the first one was the death of the Charles Dance character, which kind of mirrored, interestingly enough, it mirrored obviously the Patrick Troughton death from the original film, but also the Pete Postlethwaite spin on this. I only realised this till I watched the remake this morning, because obviously the spire comes through the glass, stained glass, and that adds extra death to the Pete Postlethwaite take on the Patrick Troughton character, the Father Brennan character. So I thought it was quite interesting. Then the hanging scene, It's All For You scene. Again, she sets herself on fire, which I think there might be a scene in the first one where someone gets set on in the remake of The Omen, a guy gets blown up at the start in the car. I think there might be a burning scene in the final conflict. So quite like this again, nice slow-mo again, which it has some slow-mo elements in the remake of The Omen hanging scene. But it would have been nice if it could have done some kind of, different spin, really. The one where the guy got hit by the car, of course, the one gets hit by the truck really violently in The Omen 2. Mia Farrow in the Omen remake gets run over instead of stabbed. But this was a good shock. Of course, he got cut in half, and that was mirroring the great scene in an Omen 2 where the lift shaft comes down, not the lift shaft, the lift wire, and cuts a guy in half. Just a quick side note, the first film I ever watched on a recorded video off TV, someone from my primary school, and they had that, and they recorded the Omen 2 off TV. I watched it on TV. We watched it again. We watched the bit where he gets cut in half in the lift shaft, where you press kind of that pause and there's that slow-mo thing on those old top loaders. Fantastic. Anyway, so I like that, the interesting plot point that they, I've always wondered why the hell were the church, why did they allow Satanists in? But it's kind of renegade Catholics who want to restore order by delivering the Antichrist, creating fear, and therefore people will return to the church. I thought this was quite a good plot point. It kind of explained that. I mean, this is the problem with the prequels, it seeks to explain everything, and this is a problem with something like Prometheus. Again, incidentally, the what's it called? Caesarean section scene, and then the kind of they brought out the kids in the pod sort of thing, kind of reminded me of Prometheus when Noomi Rapace has to do a self Caesarean. Good scenes these, but yeah. So you've got that element, and I thought that was quite a good idea. Also, it introduced the idea of twins, which actually mirrors the Omen 4, which I've not seen. It's a TV movie, but it did have a cinema or video release. But that has like a female Damien type character who's the kind of second Antichrist. So it was kind of bringing elements of all of them, even the shit one, The Awakening, which I haven't seen, but I've heard it's shit, and the Pointless remake. So that was quite interesting. They did make a faux pas when they went out for the night out, although I liked that plot point, how the guy was actually coerced, he was part of the coven, so to speak. Was the music was wrong. Boney M, they're playing Daddy Cool, and it's like Daddy Cool's like 1976, 77, not 1971. They should have been playing some James Brown, Sly Stone, maybe Hendrix, something a bit funky if they were going to get down. Or what would have been good would have been something like weird Italian pop of the time. That would have kind of been really cool. And I felt like maybe the girls were kind of dressed a little too 70s. I'm not sure, but I quite liked the sort of cue. The cars were pretty good. It did quite a good job of capturing a 70s Rome. This film only cost $30 million, so it's only grossed 17.5 so far. I think word of mouth might help it, but of course it's 20th Century Studios, formerly 20th Century Fox. So Disney owned that, so it will go to streaming pretty soon. Where you can go with the Omen franchise from this, I'm not sure, because it kind of ties into the original Omen. It's kind of weird, isn't it? This is the first Omen. Well, the Omen's the first Omen. Anyway, they could have called it Omen The Awakening. Have they already used that? I don't know. Omen the Rising. But I did think this was good. I'm trying to think of other elements. I've kind of covered some of the cinematic influences. The kind of giallo sort of feeling I got from it. A lot more psychological horror, a little bit Cronenberg, obviously that body horror at the end. 2 hours kind of, it took its time. Yeah, the 2 hours went by, not quickly, but not slowly, and that was another thing. It managed to ignore the kind of John Moore thing of the original remake, where he's got all kind of flash frames and flashy edits. It was more 70s in its pacing, I think, and that was good. So yeah, you may agree, disagree, but it'll be interesting to see how this if this does get word of mouth. I think it is decent. Looking at the other Omen films, obviously the first is a classic. I think Omen 2 looks a bit TV. Kind of cinematography at the time, but it's got great deaths. It's always been an 8 out of 10. Final Conflict I always wasn't that keen on that, but it's kind of gone up in my estimation, more like a 7. Sam Neill's really good, and it returns it to its English Gothic roots of the original. So this one, yeah, I think it sits nicely along those other 3. Ignore the other 2. And I think this just deserves its place. Good work. Okay, thanks for checking this out. I will see you again. Remember to share and subscribe, and thanks very much.